What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Comically Boston. I'm your host, Big Cam, and today is episode 172, a bonus episode where we're going to be breaking down House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 6, Smallfolk. And this episode is getting to the point where I believe we have 2 more episodes after this, episode 7 and 8, to finish out season 2 of House of the Dragon. And if you haven't yet, this is at the point where all must choose a side. And you are either Team Green or Team Black. I think you guys know I've been Team Black since the get-go. But, I don't know, man. Aegon, Aemond, Sir Criston, you know, right? Like, they're making you kind of like, alright, which side should I be on? And I haven't wavered. I'm still Team Rhaenyra all the way, but comment below, are there any Team Greens out there? But previously on the last episode, Aemond was named King Regent, or Prince Regent, but I'm going to call him King, because that's what he is. Old King Aemond One Eye. And he had closed the gates to King's Landing last episode. The Blacks have no army. They want to raise an army of dragon seed, and they're trying to find other people to be riders for the riderless dragons and be on their side and not Team Green's side. But to start out the episode, as always, the intro had a few updates this time around, and they added, it looks like, the Battle of Rook's Rest and Aemond in the middle there with Vhagar up top, and Sunfire being grounded, and Meleys and Rhaenys dying. So yeah, I believe that was added to the tapestries at the beginning of this episode. But we open on Lannister horses as one of the twins, the Lannister twins, is riding up to the Golden Tooth, and Sir Ledford of the Golden Tooth says he has 500 men ready to fight, and the Lannister twin is cocky and goes, I have 1,000, and we've been riding for a while, so I cannot wait to see what your keep has for hospitality. But send letter to Prince whatever Regent Aemond over there in King's Landing, and tell him as soon as he arrives on Vhagar, we shall attack Harrenhal. So the Golden Tooth must be the keep closest to Harrenhal, I'm guessing. Even closer than Rook's Rest, or the map, you know, when it's just in your brain, kind of gets confusing at times with all these other little ones. But I believe Rook's Rest was closer to Dragonstone and went past Harrenhal. So now they're like coming back to Harrenhal or something like that. I don't know, but either way, it seems the Green forces are trying to head towards Harrenhal and take out Daemon, who is sitting in Harrenhal claiming it for the Blacks. But that Lannister twin also had a lion and kind of just big dogs Sir Ledford there, so yeah, I guess we'll check in more with them next episode. But we cut over to King Aemond's small council meeting. He has received a letter from that Lannister twin wanting an escort to Harrenhal, and he's pissed. He's like, who the hell does this guy think he is? But Aemond has another task for the other twin that is sitting on the small council. He says he wants to treat with the Triarchy and stop the Sea Snake's blockade. He goes, I'm tired of this blockade and the food that needs to be coming into King's Landing for all the small folk. Because as we'll see in a little bit, those small folk in King's Landing, after the gates are closed and they're not able to leave and nothing's coming in because of the blockade, they're getting hungry over there. But Aemond wants the other twin to stop the blockade, so that's that twin's task. And then Aemond wants Criston Cole to head out to Harrenhal and says the Lannisters will attack from the west and he will gather the rest of his troops, which aren't a whole lot of troops, but he'll attack from the east so that Harrenhal will have to defend its walls from 2 different fronts. And even Larys goes, the King Regent speaks wisely. And then Aemond tells Criston, I will come when the time is right. So they have to take off for this long, long ride on horseback, and then Aemond can just kind of hop on Dragonback whenever he wants and be there in a couple minutes. You know what I mean? Like, that's, it's like taking a plane or a bus like in the 50s, you know? Like, you can either take a train across the country, or this one guy's just gonna hop on Dragonback and fly himself over there in a couple minutes. Like, so jealous. They must be pissed. But Aemond adjourns his council meeting and then stops his mother, Queen Alicent, and releases her of her seat on the small council. And he's like, tell me again what the hell you do around here. And you know, kicks out his own mother, and she tries to, like, you know, touch his face and, like, you know, touch his, like, child's soul for, like, one last time, but it's too late, and Aegon is already a king and a dragon rider and a dragon killer and one of the most fearsome warriors in now the Seven Kingdoms, so I wouldn't mess with him either. But Queen Alicent now gets the boot off the old small council, so she's now virtually useless, at least to Aemond. But we cut over to the Blacks' small council meeting, and Corlys is putting on his Hand of the Queen badge, accepting his duties as his first small council meeting as Hand of the Queen. And he looks like, I'm ready to go, and he's also early. He's the first one there. So they all walk in, and Rhaenyra starts the meeting by telling Sir Darkland, your grandmother's grandmother, Arianna, was born a Targaryen princess, right? So she's going back through the records and finding out that Sir Darkland is a twice, 3 times removed Targaryen. She's like, hey, your grandmother used to be a Targaryen princess. Maybe it's in your blood. Maybe the gods will favor us. But she tells him that he should be the first one to try to be Dragonback for the 3 unclaimed dragons, Vermithor, Silverwing, and Seasmoke, Laenor's old dragon. We cut over to Daemon getting haunted at Harrenhal, and he sees Viserys, old Paddy Considine, back from the grave. Well, Paddy Considine, not, or King Viserys back from the grave. Paddy Considine, my boy, though, back playing Viserys again, and this time not covered in prosthetics, but still sitting on the throne wearing his crown and talking to Daemon. And Viserys says, did you say it? Did you say heir for a day? And he goes, you can't possibly still be mad about this. This has been, that was last season stuff, man. We're into season 2. What is happening? Right, like, and poor Daemon doesn't know what's real and what's a dream and what's not, and he's just all fucked up. But Paddy Considine returns to reaffirm Daemon that he did not make him his heir, but Rhaenyra is his heir. But Daemon turns to leave and goes to the doors, and the doors won't open. He's pushing, the doors won't open. And then finally they do, and it's Sir Simon Strong. And Daemon's like, what are you playing at? And he's like, I do wonder if you've been having enough sleep. And Daemon's kind of losing it, and he's got like a knife to his neck, and he's like, have you been tampering with my peace? A friend by day, a foe by night? He goes, whatever your game is, Strong, I assure you, your king is on his guard. And then Daemon leaves kind of like, God, was I sleeping? What just happened? Like, he was having a nightmare, and then all of a sudden the nightmare, he's pushing on a door, and then he wakes up middle of the nightmare to Sir Simon opening the door, and it's now a different door, and he's in real life again. Like, it's trippy as hell the way they've been cutting Daemon in Harrenhal versus in Dream in Harrenhal versus really in Harrenhal, and you really can't, it's getting to the point where you can't really tell what's happening. But Daemon goes to leave and sees Alice Rivers outside at the Weirwood Tree, and that's like, you know, another haunted location, and maybe in the books a location that's going to be a big location in the end of this whole season, maybe, possibly. Stay tuned. But Daemon and Alice Rivers have a great bit of dialogue here, and they go back and forth, and he's like, I'm haunted, they're poisoning me, who's doing this? And he's talking to Alice, and it's all like, what do you mean who's doing this? She's the one that's fucking with your brain this whole time, brother. But she says to him, you are not the player, but a piece on the board. As is she, for that matter. You struggle to see that there's an anger that blinds you. And then he like sits down, and she goes, if you remember correctly, Viserys never wanted the crown, and maybe that's precisely why he gave it to Rhaenyra, because she didn't want it either, and that's the point that Daemon had just said to her. And she's like, the crown is not a prize to be won, but a burden to bear. And he's like starting to get it. And I just want Daemon to click, like, Rhaenyra's not the enemy. Like, she's your wife. You should be supporting her instead of trying to fight for her crown. Like, poor Rhaenyra doesn't know if he's turned against her or not. Like, oh man. But the crown is not a prize, it's a burden to bear. And Daemon's like, shit, so, and then he kind of like just sits there in silence for a second and leans over and goes, if you have any counsel for dealing with the River Lords, I'd be glad of it. And she goes, Daemon Targaryen, asking for help? And he's like, counsel, I never asked for help. I'm asking for your counsel. You just gave me some pretty good counsel about me losing my mind. Do you have any counsel of the River Lords? And she's like, House Tully is not the biggest house, but the most stable. And then he's like, okay, what do I do now? And she's like, for now, do nothing. In 3 days' time, the winds will shift. And she hears the winds, because she's a witch, or whatever she is. And they really haven't made it quite clear what Alice River's deal is, or where she comes from, or what she's doing, or whose side she's on, or why she's torturing Damon, or is she friends with Damon now, or is she just like getting on his good side after almost making him leave, but making him stay even longer at this place. He gotta get out of Harrenhal. I was saying that last episode, but Damon's got to get the fuck out of Harrenhal. Gotta peace. But so Damon has to stay on Harrenhal, and he's pretty much just this great Damon meme where he's just walking around on the beach and just laying in the water and laying on the beach, just so depressed. Like, oh, poor Damon. But cut back over to Dragonstone, and Rhaenyra is in the dragon pit as they sing to summon Seasmoke. And Seasmoke is about to get, we're about to see if he chooses Sir Darklyn as his new rider. And they're telling him to serve, Seasmoke, serve, you know, in a High Valyrian. So he's saying, Dohyrus, Seasmoke, Dohyrus. And Seasmoke, for a moment, you're kind of like, oh, is he going to let this happen? But I have the clip here of what happens to Sir Darklyn, so let's play it.
Seasmoke. Doheras.
Ribas! Do not show fear.
Ribas. Doheras. Seasmoke. I've done it.
Damn. So we see him say, Sir Darklyn go, serve Seasmoke, and Seasmoke's like, who the fuck are you? You ain't Laenor, you ain't Valerian, who the hell's this boy? But for a second you're like, oh shit, is Seasmoke gonna let him get on the back? But I think if he just walked over and like pet him and like got on, he might have been alright. But they said don't show any fear, and the way he walks up, he like tiptoes up. Yeah, no, he was afraid. And then Seasmoke burns Sir Darklyn and one of the, you know, Dragon Pit helpers. And the Dragon Pit helper takes out dragon glass and slits his throat while burning alive. I don't know what the deal is with that, but apparently one of the show creators said that we're going to find out why that person did that. Has some type of symbolism, I guess. But poor Sir Darklyn just burns alive for no real reason, but it was a good attempt. But yeah, Seasmoke let him have that shit. And Seasmoke, seeing him big and up close and personal like that, like, Seasmoke's a bad man. But we cut over to Corlys talking to Alan of Hull, his bastard son, and, you know, maybe embracing what Rhaenys had last said to him, the last words that they had spoken, saying Alan his life is no fault to his own, right? Like, it's Corlys's fault for treating him like a bastard and not making him a full Valyrian. So maybe that will happen by the end of the season. But he comes to Alan and asks him to be his first mate, and he denies it at first and then goes, "Is this a request or an order, your grace? I will expect you tomorrow, as my lordship commands." And poor Alan now is, whether he wanted to or not, Corlys's first mate. But then we cut to a bar during the day, and the fake Targaryen bastard that we seen saying that he was, this is the one that, like, I might believe that Hugh Hammers, because he's got the full white hair. This guy's kind of got just, like, gray hair, like, you know, like he's old, you know, like his brown hair has turned black and white, you know, and he got a little more salt and pep because he's old, and I don't know. This one just seems like a fake Targaryen bastard to me. I would be surprised if this one ends up on Dragonback, you know what I mean? But he overhears a woman talking to the server and talking about how the Prince Regent was feasting last night as the people go hungry and the Smallfolk go hungry. Then we cut over to Rhaenyra getting an earful from one of her members of her small council, and she slaps the piss off him. And I have a clip of this, and I laughed so hard.
His numbers were few, but we may yet retake...
It is my fault, I think, that you have forgotten to fear me.
Ooh, such a great, like, line, too. She slaps the piss off him and goes, "It is my fault. I have forgotten to make you fear me." And he kind of just stands there in silence, like, oh, fuck. Like, she's a woman, but she just slapped the brakes off my face. Then Rhaenyra walks into her room by herself, and we see her grab the sword and point it in that great shot that we've seen in the trailers that everyone's been waiting for. This shot here of her holding the sword, kind of like how Daemon did it earlier in season 1, in the armor she's got on the table there. Like, she wants to fight. She doesn't want to just be a queen that just sits and tells orders, you know what I mean? But Mysaria comes in, and I do like Mysaria being on Team Black now and being her Master of Whisperers. Getting that parallel of, like, Larys being Team Green's Master of Whisperers, and seeing that parallel and like, ooh, who's the better Master of Whisperers? I think Mysaria is. But they discuss what happened to Sir Darklyn losing his life and whether or not they should abandon this path. And then she says, "If I may, your grace," as she's holding a sword, and she goes, "This becomes you." And she kind of like gets self-conscious for a moment and puts down the sword. But no, I agree with Mysaria. Rhaenyra in that all black and holding the sword, like, it does become her. She looks like a badass fucking queen. Team Black, all the way. Yeah! Woo! Team Targaryen. If you're Team Green, fuck you. No, not fuck you. Comment below. Are you Team Green? And if so, why? Then we cut to a quick shot over at King's Landing. The small folks see that there is a giant cart of sheep getting pulled into the castle of King's Landing for King Aegon's probably Vhagar, right? Vhagar's big boy needs a lot of sheep to eat to keep going. And the townspeople are like, "You got enough fucking sheep for your dragons? We're hungry. Where's our food?" You know? And then we cut to the small council meeting again, and Larys tells Prince Aemon now that they're hearing that the small folk need food and they're running out of food. And he also brings up Aemon hasn't chosen a hand, and Aemon's like, "You fucking toad, you fucking..." Oh, he goes, "I have little interest for the self-important, but alas, you are right. I have not said who my hand is." And he goes, "You should handle this." And Larys is like, "Oh, your grace, you bless me." And he goes, "No, not being my hand, you toad." And he calls him a toad. And he goes, "Send for my grandfather, Sir Otto, to be hand." And nobody knows where Otto is, but now this is Larys' task to find Sir Otto for Aemon's new hand. Then the maester comes in, and Aegon has regained consciousness, and Prince Aemon's like, "I want to talk to him alone," goes to his room and like holds his hand and leans into him and like presses himself real close and like kisses his head, but like puts his weight on his burned side of his body that like he burned him. And he's like, "What do you remember?" He goes, "I remember nothing." He leans in, holds his hand and goes, "You challenged Meleys. This was foolish." And he goes, "I remember nothing." Right? So just by the way that he said "I remember nothing" twice and nothing else, I was like, okay, so not only is Aegon alive, he's able to speak, which is good. I thought he was going to be in much worse shape, considering who his father was and how bad Viserys' shape got over the years. But he says he remembers nothing again. And then Aemon leaves Aegon's small council little cue ball on his chest, causing him pain as it's like sitting on his burns. But then we cut over to the Vale in Rhaena, discovering an area burned and sheep's burned, and her and I believe this is Joffrey Strong, but one of Rhaenyra's sons, and she's like kind of holding him like, "Oh, we need to get back to the Vale." And then the Lady Arryn of the Vale, or whatever her name is, walks into the room that Rhaena is in with the sons, you know, watching over them like Rhaenyra told her to. And she's sitting there with the youngest, and the youngest is like have baby dragons, the Daemon's sons. And we see a little baby dragon there with and he's like bonding and playing with the little boy. I was like, oh, look at they bond from birth. This is how they become dragon riders and friendly with each other, because they're babies together, and then as one grows, the other grows, and then by the time one's a full-grown adult, they should be full-grown adult dragon, and now they can ride and burn people, right? But Rhaena says to her, you misled me. There is a large dragon here at the Vale. And she's like, yeah, whatever. So I think, is Rhaena gonna end up riding this dragon that is riderless, that's on the Vale burning fields of sheep or whatever? And what dragon is this? Is this the cannibal? Is this sheep stealer? Maybe. So is Rhaena gonna be the new rider? She doesn't have a dragon quite yet, and she is older, so like she's been saying she's tried multiple times to become a dragon rider, but no dragon has claimed her. So I'm thinking maybe she's gonna be a sheep stealer's dragon rider for Team Black, which might, you know, come to an advantage for Rhaenyra. But then we cut to Alan and Atom talking at their house, and Alan is shaving his head because it looks like there is white hair growing in. So he goes bald and shaves his head so that people won't question his white hair and who's his father, even though we know it's Corlys. But interesting that Adam, even though he has the dreads like Corlys, they're black, so he doesn't have to shave his head. So he must have got his mother's hair color, but he still very much so looks like Corlys, so he's definitely Corlys' son, and both of these boys are definitely Corlys' boys. And Alan says this about Corlys the sea snake. He says, the sea snake would sooner have high tide claimed by the seas than call us his sons. Stop wasting your life for something that will never come. And telling this to his brother Adam, and all Adam wants to do is be the heir of Driftmark and be Corlys' son, you know, like whether he wants the power or just a father, you know, like I don't know, but I hope he gets it. Then we see Rhaenyra talk to Jace, and Jace admires her for her attempt and says that they say that you struck Lord Bartimus, the guy that she slapped. And she goes, they see me as their daughters, their mothers. They must see me as their queen. They must fear me. And Jace says, my queen is my mother, and I wish it no other way. And so they kind of, you know, have a little, aw, Jace is here for his mama. And then Rhaenyra says, must I always be reminded of what Daemon's doing? Daemon. And then Miss Zarya interrupts and says, the gift has been sent. And Jace is like, what gift? And so are we. We're like, wait, what gift? She says, let's hope for clouds over the Blackwater tonight. And Jace kind of looks and leaves. And then I'm like sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, do they mean Baela? Is she sending Baela by Dragonfire over Blackwater tonight? Why would they need clouds? And then the next scene is just a boat landing on King's Landing shores with a bunch of food in it with Rhaenyra's flag. And then we look out and see that there's a bunch of boats. So is just that the gift, that they sent a bunch of boats with food in it for the small folks? Because obviously King Aemon's not doing it, so now Rhaenyra and Mysaria are going to win over the small folk by way of food? It will probably work. They're hungry. Then we cut to the Maester telling Alicent about Aegon's condition, and he sleeps 9 out of every 10 hours. The Maester also informs Alicent that the Reach House Beesbury raising arms versus the Lannisters. So the Beesburys, because you know, Master Beesbury got his face smashed into his cue ball at the small council meeting in season 1, I believe. Sir Criston killed him. And then he got replaced as Master of Coin by the other Lannister twins, so that's probably why House Beesbury and House Lannister are definitely not going to be friendly towards each other. Alicent sits with Aegon, and then Alicent then walks out into the courtyard to talk to Criston, sees Gwaine first, and then she talks with Gwaine and talks about Otto and then how Gwaine lived in Old Town and they never grew up together. And she asked about her son Daeron that we haven't met yet. And he says, he's 16, handsome, ladies love him, but he's kind. And she goes, not like his other brothers, their lack of kindness these days. And Gwaine says, you did good to send him, you did well to send him away. And she bids Gawain farewell, and no favor this time for Criston Cole, although they exchange a look as they leave. And then Alicent goes to Helena. We should go light a candle for the people we've lost. And Helena's like hearing a bug that won't stop, and she's like, what's going on here? And why won't he stop? Then we cut over to Hugh Hammer seeing a dog in the streets and people freaking out, and the dog was not Cheese's dog, just a different dog in King's Landing, but Hugh Hammer petting this puppy. So then Hugh Hammer sees a guy with food and says, where did you get that food? And he goes, from Rhaenyra. The Queen thinks of us yet. And then Hugh takes a bag of food from some guy, because he needs it more than he does, definitely, for his sick baby and his wife. But still, like, he went from Hugh Hammer petting the dog to Hard Hugh stealing the food, if you know what I'm saying. But poor Alicent and Helena were lighting a candle at the Sept, and a knight runs in the middle of them doing it and says, we have to leave. The Smallfolk are up in uproar over the food from Rhaenyra. So they leave, and a Smallfolk person throws a fish at Alicent, hits her in the face. It's disgusting. She's like dripped on. She's like, oh, what the fuck? Queen of fishes, you know, like, what does that mean? Queen of pussy? Either way, fucking she, like, it ends up tripping and falling. Helena gets cornered, and then the knights get them. They're cornered by the Smallfolk. Then the knights get them into a cart, and then the Smallfolk are yelling, long live Queen Rhaenyra. So now the Smallfolk are fully, you know, fuck Team Green, which, hell yeah, Smallfolk, I'm here for you. And then we cut back into King's Landing, and Larys stops Aegon from about to get his medicine. And he goes, maybe we'll give it to him in another hour. And he said, the drink reduces the pain, but lessens the brain. Aegon, your mind is all that remains to you. You will never be whole again. He says people will pity him and stare, and they will underestimate you, and this will be your advantage. And this is where this clip starts, so let me play this.
And they will underestimate you, and this will be your advantage. No. Your brother rules in your place now, which means that your life is in danger. But I think you know that.
Larys leans over to him and says, your brother rules in your place now, so your life is in danger. But I think you know this. And Aegon says, help me. So Aegon might be hurt, it might be under some medicine, but he still understands a lot more than we think. And he, like, knows that Aegon is gonna kill him if he fucking really, really wants to be king that badly. You know what I mean? So stay on your toes there, Aegon. Then we cut back to Harrenhal, and Daemon sees Paddy again. In this flashback of King Viserys, this is when he is mourning his first wife, Emma, dying. And I don't believe Daemon was actually ever there for this, but we also see the baby that he lost at the same time next to her. But we see him hug and be there for Viserys, like he never was able to do before. And he says, I'm sorry, you needed me, I'm here now. And then all of a sudden you hear, your grace, and he wakes up from sleeping, and he's at the dinner table at Harrenhal, and Sir Simon Strong's like, sorrowful news from Riverrun. Lord Grover Tully is dead, and young Oscar Tully is now paramount of the Riverlands. And he goes, how did Grover Tully die? Well, he had been ill. We had Alice apply her craft, but there was no more to be done. Simon leaves, and then Daemon starts to cry, and you're like, hold on a second. Did Daemon and us just realize that Alice just went somehow and killed the old man Tully for Daemon? Is that what he's noticing here? And he's just like, oh, he died of old age, but we're all kind of like, oh wait, Alice killed him for Daemon, right? Right? But then we cut to Adam on the beach, and he gets a little frightened, attacked, one of the two, by Sea Smoke, which is now out and about and still fiery and pissed off about Sir Darkland. But as Adam's running away, he trips, and I have a full clip of this, and I will talk about my favorite part of this clip right after. So we see Seasmoke get face to face with Adam, and Adam's breath starts to slow at the end there, and he's kind of like looking at him like, I'm not afraid of you. If you would have killed me, you would have killed me by now. You wouldn't have followed me like this. But does Seasmoke see this dreaded man and kind of get that smell of Valerian and go, oh, is that Lenor? Let me go see for a closer look. But my favorite part of that clip is the little bird, right? Like, he finally trips, falls, and like ends up in this place, and he's like, you know, blue skies, just this one little bird, right? And it's a perfect sense of scale. You see a little bird flying, and then the sun in the sky. We all know what a bird in the sky looks like and what a bird looks like on the ground. We all know how big the sun is in the solar system versus how it looks in the sky, right? And it's kind of calm for a moment, and he's like, oh, okay, I lost him. And then it's kind of like a jump scare. Seasmoke just kind of boom right in front of him. He's like, oh shit. It made me jump watching it last night, you know, because I was locked in on this moment. I was like, oh fuck, is he gonna eat him? Oh wait, where'd he go? Boom, he jumps back in the screen. You're like, whoa, shit. But it looks like Seasmoke has found his new rider and claimed Adam as his new rider, which he is Lenor's half-brother. So maybe he's got that scent to him, you know, same way dogs love your scent. Maybe Sir Darkland didn't quite have that Valerian, Targaryen blood scent, where he does have Corlys's blood in him, so that's the same blood that was in Lenor, so maybe Seasmoke, you know, smelt that a little bit, I don't know. Then we cut to Rhaenyra talking to Mysaria back in her chambers, and Mysaria gives her good news. I thought you would be pleased. And she goes, I don't think I can win this war. My own son doesn't think I am anything more than Daemon. That's all I wanted to be when I was younger, was Daemon. And he wished to possess me, but not be possessed. I fear he has turned against me. So Rhaenyra is voicing her frustrations to Mysaria and going, listen, I think Daemon might have flipped on us. Like, we don't really know what he's up to and if he's fighting for himself or fighting for me. So I'm hoping next episode will make it real clear where Daemon's mind's at and if he is Team Daemon, Team Green, or Team Black. We know he's not going to be Team Green, but we need to know whether he's Team Daemon or Team Rhaenyra. But Rhaenyra says, we don't have enough, Mysaria. And Mysaria says, you have me. And she goes, you have my thanks, truly. Mysaria tells her where she got that scar from. So earlier in the season, she goes, where'd you get that scar? And they never answered. And she's got a scar across her throat. And she says where she finally got that scar, and it was from her father, I believe, or something like that. And then she goes, I have another one by my stomach. I cannot have kids. So way back in season 1, when Daemon said he's going to have kids with Mysaria, that's why Mysaria gave him that look, because clearly they had had sex. And Daemon knows from that scar and from probably what Mysaria told him that she cannot have kids. So this whole time, that whole first season ruse of Daemon stealing the egg and saying he's going to have a kid with her, all bullshit. I think he was just trying to get Rhaenyra to Dragonstone to come back and get the egg. And it worked. Mysaria says to Rhaenyra, I serve you because you treated me as an equal. And I believe you should be queen. And Rhaenyra runs over and hugs her and holds her tight real quick. And at first she hugs her tight, and Mysaria like doesn't know if she should hug her back. And then she hugs her back. And then all of a sudden it gets a little steamy. Woohoo! I have the clip of this, and now let's play this.
Begging your pardon.
I love the end of that clip because the guy just knocks and walks in real quick, and they both kind of, ooh, nothing was happening in here, sir. They both just kind of don't look at each other, don't look at the knock, and just both look at the floor. Like, that's more suspicious than anything. You could have played that off better. But Mysaria and Rhaenyra kissing? What? And it was kind of hot. I was like, oh, okay, Rhaenyra, get you some. Like, and this is like a true love triangle, too, because it was Damon and Rhaenyra on one side of the triangle, and then it was Damon and Mysaria on one side of the triangle, and now on the other side of the triangle, it is Mysaria and Rhaenyra. So it's like, it's a full love triangle here, baby. I'm liking to see it. Where a lot of times people go, oh, it's a love triangle. And this is Zach Huddleston saying this over on the break room, and he's not wrong. Because a love triangle is between all three people, not just one person hooking up with two other people and the other two people knowing about it, right? Like, that's not a love triangle. That's just a love lines connecting each other. I don't know. But that guard runs in on that steamy kiss, and that knight says, "Sea smoke has been seen riding over the waters." She goes, "Yes, that is normal. With a new rider." And they go, "Who?" And it's hard to tell while he's in the air. And he goes, "Should I summon your council?" And she just takes off. She gets on the back of Cyrax. Jay says, "Mother," as she flies out of the Dragonstone pit. And that's when the credits roll. Cyrax soaring off, and that's where it ends. And I was like, oh! So Cyrax and Rhaenyra are taken off to find out who claims Sea Smoke, who her former husband Laenor's dragon, who isn't really dead. So maybe she thinks it's Laenor's back. But at the same time, we know it's Adam. So wow, Adam got the Sea Smoke, and or has been chosen by Sea Smoke, one of the two. But either way, Adam now is dragon riding. But Adam really does look like a brown-haired Laenor anyways, so whatever, same but different. But so, just to catch up what has happened over the last episode for the Team Black. Black lost Sir Darkland and also that Dragon Pit person, worker. And we're still waiting on that Vermithor Rhaenyra scene that we've seen in the last couple episodes. So, but Vermithor, Sheep Stealer, Silverwing, the Cannibal, we still haven't seen these dragons. We don't know if they will get claimed or who will claim them. But I'm guessing next episode, Vermithor and maybe a Sheep Stealer and maybe a Silverwing, maybe Dreamfire, Helena. Those will be claimed. And then episode 8 will be what happens. But I'm real curious to see, is Aemond versus Daemon at Harrenhal going to be the finale of this year? Or will that be the finale of season 3 and they'll stretch that out even further? But either way, this episode was really this war coming to a boiling point, at least for the Smallfolk, and coming to a point where the Smallfolk aren't just going to stand around and let Aemond and the Greens treat them like this, and Team Black's playing the Smallfolk card, and Smallfolk almost got Alicent and Helena. That could have been real bad. What if they threw a knife instead of a fish? It would have just, stabbed Alicent right in the face, right? So comment below, what are your thoughts on this episode? What are you hoping happens in the next episode 7 and 8? Stay tuned for next Monday. We will be breaking down the next episode of House of the Dragon. This show is one of the best shows on television right now. I'm having a lot of fun. But comment your thoughts below. Are you Team Green or are you Team Black? All must choose a side coming into these final 2 weeks of Season 2 of House of the Dragon. But if you want to talk more House of the Dragon with me on my other social medias, links down in the description below. Go check those out. Big Cam, pretty much anywhere. Just look for this ugly mug and you'll find me. 2 G's in the Big. Threads, Twitter, Instagram. Comically Boston's my podcast, Instagram, and email. You can hit me up on comicallyboston@gmail.com if you want to talk more Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon theories. And my name is Big Cam. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to support the channel more and you made it this far in the video, I highly appreciate you. Smash that like button, hit that share link button, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you beautiful people in the next video. And if you don't want to miss that, hit the bell so you don't miss any future videos. My name is Big Cam once again, and I will see you beautiful people in the next one.